Hello and welcome to the No Huddle Podcast. It is a great day to be with you all. And hey, before we delve into the wildcard reactions, let's just say the wildcard preview. I know that there weren't too many listeners on that one, but we went 6-0 in our picks, and we even went 6-0 against the spread on all of our predictions. So all I'm saying is that the divisional preview episode is going to be out in 2 days. I'm getting started on the work for that. And if you're a gambler, maybe we have some figured out here. Maybe just some hard work, some film analysis, and watching these all 32 teams for the entire year might mean something. I don't know. We'll see. But I will say, I'm not going to gloat too much because the ways that these teams won over the weekend were quite a bit different than the way I thought the games were going to play out. It's just that I ended up getting the winner and the score correct. But yeah, with all that being said, let us get started. So we're going to first start, of course, with the big news that came out this morning. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers part ways. I will say I had a gut feeling. But I was starting to feel it, especially towards the end of that game. It just kind of didn't look like there was any juice left in the tank. And this is still absurdly shocking. 19 straight winning seasons. He is a legendary head coach. Probably one of the greatest non-schematics coaches I'd say of all time. Obviously when you're thinking of great head coaches, your mind immediately goes to the insane play callers, whether it's like Bill Belichick on the defensive side of the ball, or it's Bill Walsh, and you know what I'm saying there. But as far as just a great head coach leading his team, Tomlin's always been that guy. But if we're being honest, this was good for both parties. It was just time for a change, because this Steelers roster has been always subpar, right? No one heading into this year thought the Steelers were going to win the Super Bowl. No one heading into the last year thought the Steelers were going to win the Super Bowl. No one for the last 5 years has ever really predicted this is the Steelers' year. Whether that's because of quarterback play, whether that's because of just the roster not being great. And the problem with Tomlin is that they can just never bottom out. Tomlin will get you 7 to 8 wins. He will find a way with that roster. At this point, it's just a proven track record. So for the Steelers to really move on and finally usher in a new era, they're going to have to do it without Tomlin. So the best part is for the Steelers is that they still maintain the rights to Tomlin, which means that we will inevitably see in just about a year or so, Tomlin will spend a year on break. He needs it. My God, that man's been going for 20 years straight, continuing into January a lot of the times as well. So he needs a break, and I think he's going to get paid out of the ass to do some TV stuff. And in a year, he'll get traded somewhere else for what I would assume is like the Sean Payton deal, which was a first and a second. Probably Tomlin would go for a first, if I were to guess. And the Steelers can push towards a tank. They can start to offload talent in this offseason, which I think they should. If you look at how old that roster is, I don't see a way for, unless they hit on some quarterback in the draft as a rookie, I just don't see a way for the Steelers team to find a way at the top of the AFC North again, especially without Tomlin. I think they need to start ushering in a phase of rebuilding. And if I were to pick anybody to do that, I would pick Brian Flores, because if you look at the young talent on this defense, I think it could mesh with Flores beautifully. Even if they don't want to move off a guy like TJ Watt, him and Highsmith and Herberg are going to do damage with Flores. We saw what Flores did with Van Ginkel and Grenard in Minnesota, and you're getting what probably is 2 better players than those two. Maybe I think Grenard is better than Highsmith, but you're getting phenomenal players on the edge again, and I think it could lead to damage in Pittsburgh. That's my guess. I really think that they'll end up going with Tomlin, Flores, because he was their coordinator there for a while. So we'll see. But yeah, just Tomlin being gone and me looking at a Steelers-Ravens game without John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin is going to be really weird. Because, as you guys know, I'm in college, which means that for my entire life, I have never watched a Ravens-Steelers game without those two being on the sidelines. And now we're losing both in the same year. So a little bit of sad nostalgia for me, moving on from 2 coaches I've seen all throughout my childhood. But we'll see. Let's talk about the actual Texans-Steelers game here for a sec. Total defensive domination on all fronts for both sides. The Steelers forcing 3 turnovers on CJ Stroud, but they couldn't stop the run game at all, which ended up being the way the Texans ended up closing out the game, and icing it was just a bunch of Woody Marks runs. He had over 100 on this game, nearly 6 yards a pop. Chubb went for 50 on 5 a pop, and it felt like the Texans, whenever they actually committed to the run in this game, they were just able to walk down the field. Even though C.J. Stroud in the offense struggled through this one, Nico Collins was in and out of the game with multiple injuries, and the one that actually knocked him out was a really nasty looking concussion. So hopefully he can go next week, but If not, I mean, it was brutal. That hit he took to the head. He's just falling to the ground and just bonked it. So I really, really hope he's okay. But for Houston, there's got to be some concerns over Stroud at this point. I've always been I've been the Texans guy. I think more than anybody else, really. When they were 0-3, I still picked them to win their division, which ended up being a little wrong. But I still thought they were 100% making the playoffs. I thought they were going to be a great team just because I know how good that Texans defense is. And believe you me, we're going to talk about them here in a sec. But to see CJ Stroud have 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles when he hadn't had any all year is a little terrifying. Because the one way this Texans team can lose is turning over the ball against, especially New England. That would create real issues. So the offense just needs to, I've said this 100 times on this podcast. I'm sorry for those who always listen, but just get to 20 and get out of your defense's way. Every time that needs to be the game plan. And the offense should never force it. Stroud should never force it. Nothing. Let the defense carry this team because it will work. But even then, I'm not sure if I need 20. Because when I tell you, I know the stats say technically Seattle is the best defense in the league, but the Texans have the best defense in football, and they have had the best defense all year. They put up more points than they allowed in a playoff game, which is absurd. I'd have to check the last time that happened. I'm just not sure. That is crazy. It's crazy town. This game was 10-6 midway through the fourth quarter. It finished 30-6 thanks to the defense. They made Rodgers' life a living hell. When we saw him look really, really capable for the last month and a half, Rodgers was playing great ball. If you look, not even the Ravens game, if you look back to the Lions game, if you really, every game besides Cleveland for the last month and a half, he's been playing amazing. And we called it on the podcast. We knew that Texas defense was going to make the life miserable for Aaron Rodgers. So they really never have to do anything fancy. I remember, I saw a tweet. It was the Texans can just line up. Seattle has all these intricate cover schemes. They come out in nickel with Nicky Manwarrior. They do some really cool shit over there. But Texans they could just line it up and you're not going to beat them, which is terrifying. I don't know how you scheme around beating Houston's defense. So that'll be one hell of a job for Josh McDaniels on Sunday. They are by far the most scary unit in the postseason. Moving on to the Steelers, I don't have much to say here because, frankly, there wasn't much to say from this game. It just sucks to see Aaron go out like this. There's a good chance the last throw of his NFL career will be a pick 6, much like Tom Brady ended his Patriots career with a pick 6, too. It just sucks to see it like that, especially when he'd been on such a good run for the last month and a half. Almost makes me wish that they didn't beat the Ravens that Week 18 game. I don't think Steelers fans feel that way. I think they love the misery they caused Ravens fans, but to see Rodgers go out like this just really sucks. But credit to the defense, forcing 3 turnovers, allowing, if you take 30, subtract 14 from it, allowing 16 points. It's more than enough usually to win you a game if you're not playing Houston. It sucks that they allowed such great production out of the run, but in hindsight, it really doesn't matter. And yeah, I want to see this team with Flores. I want to see what this defense could look like under him. I am excited for a new phase of Steeler football because this is this has been exhausting for the last 5 years. Because I know some people really thought the Steelers could win this. I thought that they had a puncher's chance if you go back to the preview. But realistically, they have been just pretty solidly out of winning a playoff game for the last 7 seasons. We have never gone into a playoff game thinking, or not we never have, but for the last half decade, we haven't gone into wildcard weekend thinking that the Steelers were going to win. So I want to see this team start a rebuild. It's going to suck for Steelers fans who haven't had to watch a team rebuild in a long time. Let me tell you, it does suck. But there's always light at the end of the tunnel, which I don't think the Steelers have had for quite some time. Moving on to the game I want to talk about the most. I'm sorry for my microphone peaking. The Niners and the Steelers. Let me just say, before we head into everything, the instant reaction I had to this game when it ended, I know you guys can't see back there, and I also know that this background's a mess. I got to comment on it. I know, I'm sorry. I just don't know where to put all my stuff. It's a dorm room at the end of the day. But when the Eagles missed that 4th and 11, I just fell to my rug and I started laughing for a few minutes. I couldn't believe what I just watched. The Niners lost the turnover battle. They couldn't run the ball, and they still won. I don't know how this team does it. George Kittle popped his Achilles. They still won. It is beyond me. I don't think I've quite seen a team like this where everything can seemingly go wrong. And they're still here. They're 13-5 for the season? I don't get it. I really don't. I'm just grinning ear to ear. I don't know. Just that's going to always be one of the more interesting memories of my life. It's just falling down to that rug and cackling my ass off because I just couldn't believe it. Even though I picked the Niners to win on the podcast, just the way that whole game had gone. Oh my God. But quickly moving to the Eagles side here because we need to talk about Philadelphia. This was such a failure on every level. I don't know how else to put it. There's no excuse. There's no reason. Nothing to lose against this Niners team. And I saw Eagles fans say, it's Patullo. Patullo cost us a chance to repeat. If you think that this is on one person losing to the Niners at times C team, you have Brock Purdy, you have Kyle who's still there, you have McCaffrey who's still kicking, you still have the line mostly healthy, even though Trent's like 70% healthy at best. And outside of that, it's the B team. And you still lost. This game being a 6-point spread, though, I will say, was disrespectful as shit. Not giving San Francisco a chance. I saw the analysts, everybody was picking Philly. And to them, I say, you did not watch a single down of Philadelphia football this year. Because even as I say this is a failure, even as I say there was no excuse, no reason to lose to this team, it was so obvious. It was really so obvious that they were going to pull this bullshit. Because for the offense, it is nothing different than I have said all year. So much blame needs to be put on everybody. This is the most pathetic title defense because you are returning 20 out of, I think it ended up being 21 out of your 22 starters. You had them healthy. Your whole team is healthy except for Lane Johnson. And you still can't beat this team? Patullo, let's start with Patullo. He coached at a high school level at best. I think that in the first half, Patullo called a not horrible start to the game. I think that's the best compliment I can give him, is that it looked like you could realistically, something you could see in the NFL. I liked the Goddard reverse play. I liked getting Jalen on the move on that 4th and 2 that ended up being converted. But that second half was just terrible. Classic Patullo. Running nothing but hitches, running nothing but hooks, not finding a way to attack the middle of the field at all. And what the Niners did is they closed the outside and they said, beat us over the middle. Couldn't do it. They closed the outside, stopped the run, and that was it. There was nothing they could do. Nothing but hitches, stop routes, and verticals. 4th and 11 was straight out of Madden. 4th and 11, we need a lot of yards. You know what we probably should call? 4 verts. 4 verts. It just makes me laugh. I really don't know what else to do. It is absurd how this persisted for 20 weeks. And let me tell you, as we talk about it persisting, Nick Sirianni should be fired. I know that's going to be a hot take. Oh, look at his winning percentage. Oh my God, he wins so much. Not that the Eagles aren't the defending champions. I can come out and just flat out say it instead of heavily implying it like I have been the entire year. How you don't fire Patullo after week 4 is beyond me. How you don't fire him at week 8 is a disgrace. How you don't fire him after what was the Chargers game, week 14? Is a fireable offense. No way around it, and it should be. The one time that the ownership group and Howard Roseman didn't listen to Sirianni and picked their own coordinators. They picked Kellen Moore and they picked Vic Fangio. And you want to know what they did? They won the fucking Super Bowl. 40-6. The final score says 40-22. They won it 40-6. That's because this is one of the most talented rosters, maybe outside of Baltimore, of the last, 4 years? I do not understand how this team went out like this. And you know who else needs blame? Jalen Hurts. People are going to hate me for it. I know people are going to be like, oh, well, Jalen Hurts didn't have a turnover, all this, yada, yada. No point of the game was I scared of Jalen Hurts. Which, as I think, sometimes the way we measure quarterbacks is so divisive. The way we talk about quarterbacks is so confusing. Sometimes people use stats, right, if they want to push a certain agenda. Sometimes people will say, I know the stats aren't great, but look at the eye test. Look at the way you can throw the football. But that's always been the argument for Justin Herbert is, my God, he can throw a pretty football. But I think at some point in your gut, if you do not fear the other team's quarterback at all, it is a pretty good sign that they are not that great. And I had no fear of Jalen Hurts. None. Everything I'd watched on film for in preparation for the game, in preparation for the preview podcast, gave me no inclination to be scared of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has not necessarily been a scary quarterback since 22 when he was playing really, really well with Steichen. And I think that they can get Jalen Hurts back to that. I think that with the right coordinator that understands his weaknesses, because I think Patullo did understand them, he just didn't scheme around it very well. Right? Jalen Hurts doesn't necessarily have the tightest release. He can't really push the ball over the middle of the field. He just has one of the best deep balls on the outside in the league. He throws those routes really well. He throws the comeback route at an elite level, and that's it. And that worked for a long time. But when that becomes your only way to pass the ball, it is brutal. It's just brutal. You got 19 points on this Niners team with having 0 turnovers. I do not. It is crazy. And remember, I am a Niners fan. I don't know how the hell you would feel if you're an Eagles fan. This would have to piss you the hell off. Going back to the notes, because that was to have. That last drive was heinous. Not calling one run when you have 4 downs in the red zone is beyond me. Forcing Jalen Hurts to try and fit it in tight windows in the red zone when you probably still want to kill a little bit of clock. Not calling one run, having 3 incompletions, and 1 failed Jalen Hurts stepping up in the pocket just by that. But Keon White makes a hell of a tackle. But it puts so much strain on the offense for no reason to end that game. It's the same dog shit static offense we have seen since week 1. Also, not to mention, Philadelphia got the added advantage, or disadvantage in this case, of being hella undisciplined. Like, I felt like I was watching the Cowboys. Really dumb holding penalties that they didn't need to do. Really, really dumb false starts. Finding yourself in 3rd and longs. Being the ones who put yourself in that position. Philadelphia had like 70 penalty yards in this game. And every one of those felt like a dagger. Like, all of them were brutal. The interior offensive line is something we scouted before the game. It struggled in the run game past the first few drives, especially as the Niners started to get more aggressive, started to show more 2-mug, aka 2 linebackers at the line, and it really started to struggle from there, especially when number 27, Jair Brown, came out of the game. We're going to talk about that more in a second. And, moving back to the Sirianni thing, we know he got into an argument with A.J. Brown, which I can't say I'm surprised about. A.J. Brown has been very obviously unhappy there for a long time. And speaking of which, A.J. in this game may have had one of his worst games as a pro. 3 big drops in this one, and only having 1 target in the second half, which was a drop. I think that A.J. Brown was just never really into that mentally. Like, he's complaining to get the ball. He is in like a dog shit static offense. I understand being frustrated with A.J. Brown. I understand A.J. Brown being frustrated with the Eagles. It goes both ways, in my opinion. A.J. Brown was clearly just not happy there, and they probably should have moved off him at the deadline when they could have gotten a ton of value for him. Not sure what they'll do now. But both him and Devontae Smith struggling to get open against, frankly, a depleted back end. This is a team that was missing their starting free safety. They brought in Lenore and Green, who are 2 good corners. Like, I think Lenore is a great corner. He just struggled in the first quarter of this one. And Renardo definitely can get picked on, but they still couldn't get open. Whether, again, that's a critique of the system, whether that's a critique of the receivers, I think it goes both ways, in my opinion. Jalen, like we talked about in the rant, played a pretty below average game. No turnovers, but it was clear that he never could find the switch and that something was affecting his throws. I think the wind, he just did not deal with it as well as Brock did, which is not great when it's your home stadium. The final play in particular as well just had no zip on it, and it never really had a chance. Even if Eric Kendricks doesn't tip it, it looks like that pass is going to be behind Goddard anyways. And as for the run game, fell flat in the second half, and there's just so much internalizing that needs to be done in Philly. You really got to... I know they fired Patullo, or not fire, but they're demoting him, so he's not going to be the OC anymore, which is 100% the right step. They should have fully fired him. I don't know what he gives you in your building in the coaching staff. He 100% should just be flat gone, but he's Sirianni's buddy, so he won't. There's just... I don't know. I don't know how you look at this offense and be like, even though it's so talented on paper, it realistically was as healthy as you could ever want it to be. I understand Lean being out sucks, but if you just look around at the league, having to only deal with one major injury is a goddamn blessing. Having to bring in 21 out of your 22 guys from week 1 is a blessing. Most teams if you are that talented and you have all of your guys healthy, you win a Super Bowl. But Philadelphia gets bounced in the wild card. Moving on to the Eagles defense. It was a great chess match between him and Kyle, as expected. And they came up just short. The main, of course, thing that sort of blew the game open was the trick play. It felt like San Francisco took control of the game right there. At that point, the Niners really kind of had their handle on it, especially when they took the lead. This is the type of game where when the Niners were down, it felt insurmountable just because it was like, oh, we have no Kittle. How are we going to move the ball? But as soon as we somehow got the lead, it was like, well, they're not going to do anything with the ball. And yeah, they ended up getting just 3 points to close the game out. Only got 1 sack, though, pretty shockingly. I think that's a combination of course, there was a penalty that wiped out a sack on the last drive. And then Brock was just really did a great job in the pocket, was really escapable. And the Niners offensive line played a solid enough game. I'll give them credit. They game planned well against Christian McCaffrey up till the fourth quarter, where CMC was like, okay, we got to make sure we go win the game. And, just did CMC things. That's kind of just to be expected. But if you look back, I think the Eagles end up allowing like 300-something yards for the game. And 180 of them were on explosives. You had the 60-yard Demarcus Robinson play. You had the 40-yarder to Juwan Jennings. And then you had a 40-yard play from Juwan to Christian McCaffrey. So it's 140, which is half of the yards just came on explosive plays, which means the Niners really couldn't move the ball for the majority of the game. It was just those explosives were so brutal for them. Even as much as I am saying, it really wasn't the defense's fault, you have to know the offense is just not going to put up more than 20 against a good team. They haven't really since the Rams game, and that game had a blocked kick return for a touchdown, and that was in week 3. So they knew they had to hold San Francisco realistically to under 20, and they couldn't. So if you want to give them some blame, I think that is fair. Moving on to the Niners side of the ball. Let's start with a Kittle injury, because that sucks, because I am going to be enjoying talking about the rest of it. But for Kittle, popping his Achilles is just, it sucks so bad. For a Niners team, for my team, I'll say, that has been dealing with so many injuries, it feels like every week we have to lose somebody. Losing Kittle, the heart and soul of the offense. What he does in the blocking game is obviously amazing. That he never gets enough credit for that. What he does as a receiver is huge, as like the main red zone threat for Brock in the offense. It is going to be really hard to replace him in that respect. I think Tonjes is more than a capable backup tight end, but it's just not going to replace what Kittle does, again, especially in the red zone. That part just, it sucks so much. This run in particular, like Kittle being out for this postseason, it's sad, but it isn't the worst thing. The main thing I'm really concerned about is that he is 32 with an Achilles injury that he suffered in January, which means I'm not sure when he comes back in next year. I feel like midseason's the most optimistic we can go for. Realistically, probably near the postseason of next year, which just sucks so much. And it's going to be a long while till we get to watch George Kittle, which is just sad for the entire league. At least he got to pop a bottle of tequila and enjoy watching the Niners win. That's about all he could do. Class by the owner, Jed York, to get him a nice bottle of Patron that he demolished because it's George Kittle. Okay, I'm going to wipe the sadness off my face because we're going to talk about the Niners winning this game. Oh my goodness. Huge credit to the line. When I say they played passable earlier in the Philly part, that is huge. Like the fact that the offensive line only allowed 1 sack is so massive. This is a game that easily could have gone out of hand just because of how much talent is on the interior defensive line for Philadelphia. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. But for them to really hold up against them is amazing, especially in pass pro. They let up some reps. They lost a few reps. But holding up on that game-winning drive was just so big. Especially allowing Brock to step up on that final play when Trent gets beat on the outside is so huge. And again, so much credit to them. Talking about Brock, he had a really, really great game considering the circumstances, which is DeMarcus Robinson is his receiver 1, who was the receiver 5 for Kansas City. His receiver 2 is Juwan Jennings, who was a receiver 3 for us. And Kendrick Bourne, who was scraps off the Patriots, against 2 all-pro corners, an all-pro linebacker, overall, and an overall insane defensive unit coached by one of the best defensive minds in football. So him having 2 just greedy interceptions where the pressure got there and he thought he could fit it in the window it's unfortunate. It really can't happen against Seattle because Seattle will take advantage of it because their offense is good. But coming up clutch on that game-winning drive, you have the ball last, you allow it to get a field goal, you put your team in a kind of shitty spot, but you get a touchdown, you put your team in a great spot, and that's exactly what he did. That was doing that with, again, the worst receiving core in the NFL. It is not close. That is including all 32 teams in that, by the way. Without Ricky Pearsall, this is easily the worst receiving unit in the NFL. It's without George Kittle especially, too. And finding a way to come up clutch and get huge conversions on that drive was just unbelievable against that defense. So much credit. This man, he's just such a gamer. I know the Brock Purdy glaze on my end can get tiring. I know you see a Niners sweatshirt on, and you just think, oh, he's biased. But I'm telling you, man, as someone who just loves football, as someone who has hated on my team's quarterbacks before and really not liked them, this kid's just special. He really just is. And I think, thankfully, more and more of the general public is starting to see that. I would love it for one day for him to just be recognized as like, yeah, every team is just so many teams need franchise quarterbacks. But look at the Niners, look at Cincinnati, look at Baltimore, look at Kansas City, look at Buffalo, I think that's the way it should be discussed with Brock. He's just that guy. He is somewhere, if any team has Brock, they don't need another quarterback. CMC, he just found a way to get yards against his team, especially in the run game. You see 3 yards per carry, and it's McCaffrey didn't run it that well. But frankly, those holes were maybe allowing a yard at most. Realistically, he should have finished with 20 yards like the Seattle game. But he was just finding a way to just wiggle through so many tackles and even turn those what should have been no gains into small gains, which was just great. And he was so awesome in the receiving game. He had an unbelievable jumping catch in that first drive to set up the first touchdown, where the ball gets tipped and he just leaps up in the air and grabs it. That would be an insane catch for a receiver. For a running back, you just don't see it. Juice and Demarcus Robinson, 2 guys who I always want to get the ball more if you've been listening to the podcast. They stepped up in a big way as well. D-Rob finishes with over 100 yards, Juice nearly 50, and with most of those coming with Kittle out. Again, those guys are just, I have longed to see them get more reps. I love that they did. And of course, the trick play. Unbelievable call. The Niners have ran that play, a variation of that play, I want to say 4 times in the last 8 years. Heading back to 2019, we ran it with Emmanuel Sanders and Raheem Mostert, if you remember that, Niners fans. We ran it in 21. In 21, we had Juwan Jennings throw it to Debo. That's why Shanahan said we ran this play 4 years ago, because that specific play we ran in 21. And then this year, of course, 25, we bring it back, the 21 one, where you get a double pass and you have Juwan throwing it on the right side. And just like that throw he had to Debo that year, this is just another unbelievable throw. That was probably one of the better throws of the weekend, if we're being honest, including quarterbacks. Because if you didn't know, Juwan Jennings is a 4-star high school quarterback, or 4-star recruit, and he was rated higher than Burrow pre-draft or pre-college, which is insane. And he went to Tennessee, and they're like, "Yo, you're playing receiver," which I don't know how. If I was Juwan, I don't know how the hell he went along with that, but that's besides the point. But yeah, if you just look back at those 4, it seems like those receiver passes always just seem to come at the right time. And that's just a huge credit to Shanahan, Clay Kubiak, and the rest of that coaching staff. Moving on. This defense, I have changed by injuries in a confusingly positive way. What do I mean by that? So the Niners have suffered so many injuries to the point where we have seen so many of the backups that oftentimes we know whether the backups are better than the starters, but the starters just get the reps because coaches like them, something like that, And Tatum Bethune and D. Winters have been playing just flat out bad football in the last month. So when both of them go down against Seattle and you have Eric Kendricks and Garrett Wallow in, that sounds like, that's a huge downgrade. But in reality, it is probably the biggest upgrade they could have made heading into the game. Because Eric Kendricks was so good. When I am telling you, and I mean this is a big thing for me to say, he was giving me Fred Warner vibes out there. It felt like I was watching the defense through the first 6 weeks of football because Eric Kendricks was everywhere on the field. And Garrett Wallow was just a tackling machine. I know he had his struggles in coverage in the first half, and he was getting kind of washed out of some run plays, But that second half, man, he was playing so good. He was playing so good. Both these linebackers were amazing. But it really did feel like for a second that we had Fred and Dre back there, which was crazy. It was crazy to me. I did not think we'd get that out of Eric Kendricks and Garrett Wallow. And more credit to Bob Saleh, because there always needs to be more credit given to Bob Saleh. And outside of that, Jair Brown, who goes down in the second quarter. At that point, Philadelphia had scored 2 touchdowns. But Jair Brown goes down. Marquis Siegel comes in, his backup, who we have been, when I say we, I mean just the podcast, clamoring to get benched for 3 months. 3 long months of Jair Brown football. But then Siegel comes in, and he cleans everything up. He finishes with 8 tackles, even though he came in halfway through the game. Because he's just a hell of a baller. I know he's not that great in coverage. Like, he has his coverage issues. But he cleans up in the run, and he's so good. I love watching Siegel get some reps with his team. And it bothers me that we didn't get a chance to see him develop over the last 3 months. Because I think he'd be an even better player right now. Certainly much better than 27. So for all 3 of those guys, I know Bethune's done for the postseason. So I'll say 2 of them. You cannot, even if Jair Brown and D. Winters somehow are healthy by Saturday, they cannot play. My God, they cannot play. You saw how much better this defense is. Do not let them back into the lineup at all. I don't care. They cannot not be in the lineup on Saturday. Of course, Kendricks also came up with the final bat away on 4th down and 11. Came out and showing blitz, dropped out, and he just read Jalen Hurts' eyes all the way through it. Easiest bat away of his career, frankly. That was obvious. And the Niners defense, with those 3 guys who were playing really terrible football out, started to look like the defense we saw at the beginning of the year. And a large reason of that is because we know the Niners defense with good safety play is amazing. You remember the Niners defense against Carolina when Jair Brown was playing the best game of his career? They allowed 9 points because good safety play. That was the thing that was killing this team, was the linebackers couldn't cover well and they couldn't get out to the flats because they were slow. They were slow to react, not slow as far as like their actual speed. D. Winters is insanely fast. But they were slow to get to their zones, and the safeties were just allowing everything. They couldn't stop him in run. They couldn't stop him in coverage, and that got fixed. That got fixed with those 2, with those 3 swaps. Bob Saleh, man, he's got to get a head coaching job at some point. He really should. I'm not sure if there's an offer right now that I think he would take the Ravens job. I think he would take the Steelers job. Outside of that, I'm not sure if he'd leave for any other job. At least I don't think he should. I think then you should stay the DC for another year and then take one of these other openings that's like a perfect fit. But the Niners, other than that stuff, they couldn't get any pass rush, which was to be expected. Good Eagles pass blocking offensive line. The interior struggles in the run, not so much in the pass, besides the holding penalty, of course. And give him credit for doing well in the run game. That was something I was very scared of, even though, again, that Philly run game has not been good all year. That was big of them to step up, and also big for the corners to step up as well, because while Lenore was getting picked on a lot in the first quarter, he had the A.J. Brown assignment. He was traveling with him, and he, at the end of the day, only let up like 25 yards against him, which is absurd. And then one other guy we got to shout out here is Upton Stout. Rookie for the team, slot corner, comes in at the start of the season, and he has big ups and downs. You know, at times I want him benched for Chase Lucas, but the Niners stick with him. And week 18 against Seattle, we saw him look like the best cover corner on the field. And it was a question of like, is that going to stay or is that a one-game thing? And the answer was obvious. He is amazing. He is just that guy. Comes up with a huge bat away on 4th and 2. And the Philly couldn't do anything out of the slot. Upton was just always on him. He looks like a real stud that the Niners found. He probably looks like the best draft pick out of a really good draft class for San Francisco, which gives a lot of credit because C.J. West and Alfred Collins are also very, very good players. Moving on. I know that was a long time spent on Niners Eagles, but I mean, I'm a Niners fan. I'm going to talk a lot about the Niners. And as for Philly, that was the defending champs. And that was just such a culmination of everything we've been saying on the show. But moving on to Packers-Bears. A truly amazing collapse of epic proportions. This game was just insane. I was so ready to tune it out when it was 21-3. But I stuck around. I'm like, okay, it's the Bears. It's the Bears. And then they came back, but then it was 28-16, and I was about ready to call it. But then Caleb. Cardiac Caleb, man, finds a way. On the Packers side of things, that first half is what it should have looked like against a not particularly great Bears defense. if you don't force a turnover, or if the Bears don't force a turnover, they're not a good unit at all. On the preview, we said that they would have to force a turnover or two to win this game, and that was flat out wrong. I'm going to be honest. I'll be honest. I got that part wrong. I said that I thought the Bears win, but I thought they run the ball and they get turnovers, which they didn't do either. But then credit to the Bears. Second half, they played with nothing to lose on the defensive end. Sent a ton of pressure packages coming from the slot, coming from the outside, linebacker blitzes, everything you can think of. And the Packers were just not ready for it because the Bears haven't done it really all year. That has not been the Bears thing. So they were just really surprised by it, and there was just nothing in the game plan ready to stop it. The Packers in this game, by the way, went up 21-3, had 7 rush attempts for 7 yards in the second half. Total. 7 total, not 7 per carry, 7. Which means it was up to an already injured offensive line that suffered an injury to Zach Tom, and another one of their guys went down, to deal with a pass rush that is sending more than 5 guys most of the time, and all those guys who can tee off on the rush. They don't have to be worried about the run. They don't have to worry about run support lanes. None of that. They can just charge at the quarterback. And yeah, no shit, they couldn't hold up. A big part of this game that pisses me off, speaking of the run, is that Josh Jacobs gets 19 carries for 55 yards, and Emmanuel Wilson gets 1 carry. And I know you'd be like, oh, why the hell do you care if the backup only had 1 carry? Emmanuel Wilson was a huge reason the Packers should have won a few weeks ago. He was so freaking good in that Bears game on Thursday night. Yeah, I think it was Saturday night, sorry. He was a change of pace after Jacobs fumbled and got injured in that game. Wilson came in and nearly got like 5 a pop, and he got the Packers up to that lead in a game that they would have won if Romeo Doubs holds on to an onside kick. But I don't know why the hell he didn't get reps. If Josh Jacobs isn't working, if he's getting less than 3 a carry, try a bit of Emmanuel Wilson. I really didn't understand that. I was kept looking in the game, I'm like, where the hell is Emmanuel Wilson? I thought at times he got injured, but he didn't. He just didn't get the ball. And I think now he's probably going to walk because you gave him 1 carry in the biggest game of your season. So if the argument is that, oh, he had a stupid negative 19-yard run against the Vikings, that was a meaningless game. You rested the starters. If Emmanuel Wilson's going to try something in that game, why not? Because it doesn't matter. That is a truly terrible decision. One of many made by Matt LaFleur and the coaching staff of this game. Zach Tom, as I mentioned, of course, being out was a real killer. On the positive note, though, Matthew Golden finally had his breakout game. He had his touchdown in this one, 84 yards, and he was really explosive. And my God, where was that all year? I think the Packers could have won more than 9 games had we seen that Matthew Golden throughout the season. Again, credit to Romeo Doubs, who stepped up really well for them as well. Had over 100 yards. And he had what probably should have been the game-sealing deep catch. But again, cardiac Bears. As for the defense, Hadley was this close to securing his spot as like the second most wanted head coach behind Harbaugh. This is, again, before Tomlin got fired. Or not fired, let go. My God, 25 points in the fourth quarter with multiple third and fourth and long conversions in that drive. It was just piss poor defense in the fourth quarter. But they were really great beforehand. You forced 2 interceptions. I said the biggest key of the game was stuffing the run. I thought the Bears were going to get 40 rush attempts in this game. I was wrong. Look at me. Wrong. Fully wrong. But they forced 2 interceptions and they stuffed the run game. Won the turnover battle 2-0. And if I had known that before the game where you stop the Bears run game and you get 2 turnovers, I would have predicted Packers blowout, which is what we had in the first half. But then, Bryce started to get home, and my God, this team needs new corners. Moving on to the Bears side of things. This is going to sound weird. This is going to sound really weird, but I want you to walk with me for a second. Caleb is supercharged Bo Nix. Supercharged Bo Nix. I cannot emphasize the supercharged part enough. His lows, man, they are so low. They are, at times he looks like someone who got thrown onto a football field for the first time. That throw to, I want to say, was it DJ Moore or Rome Odunze? One of the two, or Luther Burden. He had him wide open on that 4th down on the left side, just running free, and he missed him to the right by 15 yards. Like, it genuinely looked like he picked up his foot and, like, spun in a circle on the throw. Like, that would have been the only logical explanation as to how the throw went there. And at the same time, he had one of the single greatest throws I've ever seen in my entire life. You think that might be hyperbole, but consider the context. It is 4th and 8. If you don't get it, the game's over. He is rolling to his left. Rome Odunze is not open on the left side. No way around it. And not only does Caleb get the ball towards him, he throws him open while running to the left. That play was unbelievable. That is one of the best plays I've ever seen in my entire life. I was sitting on this chair here, and I just got up and I was like, oh my God, are you kidding? I thought that, I was like, there has to be some penalty. Something had to be wrong there. There's no way that stands. And it did. And it did. So, supercharged Bo Nix. Real low lows and, let's just say, incredibly high highs. I love watching Caleb so much. It's so much fun. Like, he'll probably end up being a guy who's like a bit overrated, but it's okay because it's so much fun. What was concerning for this team more than anything Caleb did or didn't do was the lack of the run game and the injuries. Both were really bad. TJ Edwards is done for the postseason with his injury, which sucks. So is their starting left tackle Trapilo. And yeah, that's just brutal. Losing your starting linebacker and tackle in a game, especially when you're playing the Rams next week, I'd be a little nervous about that. And they also, Swift and Monungai got stuffed by a bad Packers run D. I understand that. That's probably the number one thing the Packers game planned for was how do we stop the run? How do we stop the run? Because that's what killed them in their last matchup. But to go for like nearly only 4 a carry with those two, when that is a rushing unit that is one of the best in football, is if the Rams can replicate that, they will win the game. I'm not sure if they can though, so that's a trade-off. They just weren't particularly good at the stuff they have been all year. Like they have found a way to force turnovers, right? I don't know if the Bears had won a game where they didn't force a turnover. Because they always do. They had like 34 takeaways on the year. They have been unbelievable at it. So to see them win a game, not only that, come back when they didn't force a turnover is unbelievable. And that is credit to Dennis Allen, again, calling up really smart pressure plays, throwing the Packers back on their heels. And it's a lot of discredit to that offensive staff who just kept going 3 and out over and over and over again. As for some smaller stuff, I mean, Colston Loveland's just so freaking good. 8 catches, 140 yards. I mean, if I'm being honest, there's nothing I didn't expect out of Colston, especially heading draft. I really loved Colston Loveland. I thought him and Tyler Warren were 1A, 1B. You pick them, you're going to be set at the tight end spot for 10 years. And it looks like that'll be true. I think both of them are insanely talented players. I don't see much of a point of comparing the two. Like, they are both uniquely good at their own thing, and I think they're both in great spots. So, defense played with their heads on fire. Huge credit to them, and we'll see what they do on Saturday. Moving on to the second last of the actual good games here. We have Bills-Jags. So, the Bills made just one hell of a leap into postseason form. No way around it. This was not the same Bills team we saw in the regular season. Not at all. Josh Allen, with a million receiver injuries. We already know Tyrell Shavers is out for the year with a torn ACL, which he played through. Don't understand how that happened. That's crazy. That is insane. Genuinely, I'm baffled by that. Outside of that, we saw Gabe Davis go down. I think he looks to be done for the year as well, which sucks. Gabe Davis in the playoffs could always go for something. We still remember that 2021 game. And even with all those injuries, even with not really finding Kincaid as much as I thought he would into this game, he still had the best game of any quarterback this weekend. And it was not particularly close. He had such a huge impact on the game. Like, the Bills do not win this game if they have anyone else at quarterback. That 10-yard tush push was just so much fun, too. Like, I don't know how the hell that happened. I'm just not going to question it. They're like, sure, 10-yard tush push. Why not? They couldn't really get their run game going either. But the Jags were just, like, they're just that good in run D. They allowed 80 yards per game on the ground, which is, like, unheard of. I don't know if what other defense allowed 80 a game. That's crazy. So I don't necessarily blame them for getting stuffed in the run game. That's kind of just to be expected with the Jaguars. And, another big matchup of this game that we talked about was this pass defense against a resurgent Trevor Lawrence. And the big thing, the reason why they won is because that Bills pass defense ended up winning that battle. They ended up with 2 interceptions, and they should have had more against Trevor Lawrence. That first half, that man was throwing lame ducks everywhere. That was brutal to watch. It felt like I was watching Trevor Lawrence from 2021 with Urban Meyer. Like, I don't know where the hell he was throwing the ball. That was bad. They 100% should have finished with more. But they ended up getting 2, which it was good enough in the same. They struggled, of course, with like a late Jag surge. Trevor Lawrence finally got clicking. Parker Washington got clicking because Parker Washington is an absurdly good football player. But they're still able to find a way to get a stop at the end. And Tre'Davious White, who, my God, he was so talented with the Bills, but then he suffered a million injuries. And then it looked like he had lost a step. He gets cut. He goes to the Ravens. He looks dog shit there. gets cut again, and it looks like it's over. But then the Bills have 9,000 corner injuries. He gets brought in, he gets pushed up to starting, and he comes up with a game-winning bat up into an interception. So hype for him. So great. Trey White was always one of my favorite corners to watch. This Bills run defense, by the way, is such a problem, and we're going to talk about Jacksonville not taking advantage of it. They are so fortunate that the Jags did not push it that hard because they could have gone dominated in this game if the Jaguars just ran the ball. Speaking of which, the Jags. Why the hell didn't you run the ball? I don't understand it. I really don't. Baishal Tun and Travis Etienne combined for 14 carries when they were running for 7 a pop with Etienne and 14 a carry with Tuten. They give him 14 carries. Rookie head coach thing. Like that's the only thing I can think of. It's a rookie head coach. First time, on his own. And he just forgot. Like he just got so caught up in trying to make the pass game work. This was just an obvious weakness. Heading into the game, it was like the Bills cannot stop the run. We knew that. We knew that for a fact. And for them to not push it, it's crazy. It is a weakness that they 100% should have capitalized on. The Jags' pass D was quite a bit of a letdown. They had a great pass defense. We've been talking about it all throughout the year. It's a unit that did not get enough love. I understand it's Josh Allen, so they're going to allow some inevitable stuff. But it felt like they were just leaving guys wide open, and they really made it easy for him. We know that when you can stop the Bills' run game, you can get Josh Allen to turn over the ball. And not one time did it ever feel like the ball was really ever in jeopardy, which you're just not going to win against the Bills that way. I have in my notes, I have a little missed. Christopher, I missed like a 50-yarder in this one, which sucks for them. That would have been enough to tie the game. That part's a little rough. As for the offense, Trevor Lawrence just really needs to take a step forward next year. This team is really, really good. And when you're considering the fact that they're going to add Travis Hunter back next season, they're going to obviously add in a fresh draft class. I think they still have a good bit of cap as well. So the only way they could have lost this game was him throwing 2 picks and stumbling on the 4th down. That's 3 turnovers, with one of them being a game-losing interception and one of them being a turnover in the red zone. So Lawrence is probably the weak link of that team, which I know he's been on a hot streak, but I was waiting for the clock to strike midnight on that. Like Trevor Lawrence was just not going to play that well for the whole year, and yeah, it ended up striking midnight. I think we saw it as well when they were playing I'm not sure they played week 16, I'm forgetting. After the Broncos game, but before the Titans game, we saw Trevor just have like a normal game. And yeah, he went back to being just Trevor. Overall, while it's sad for the fans that they lost, like this was a winnable game. You forced special teams turnover in this one. Ray Davis fumbled on the kickoff return. Coming up with 0 there is brutal. You got the ball back with a chance to win, and you came up with 0. That sucks. But regardless of that, you just have to be happy, and you have to have some faith. And it's got to be nice to have faith in this team going forward, because you found your right head coach, and you have a hell of a roster. I'm not too sure if the quarterback is the right one for your team, but I'm more than confident now in this organization to either make it work with Trevor or find somebody else. Moving on, we have the Panthers and the Rams. I said speaking in positive notes. Panthers, Rams. Bryce Young. I feel good for him. This might be it's the best non-Atlanta game of his career. Because Bryce Young against Atlanta is the freaking GOAT. He is Tom Brady. But outside of Atlanta, this is by far his best game. Jalen Coker, Tyrell McMillan. Those guys were awesome, especially Jalen Coker, who has been so good. He has shown potential, and the thing with him is that he always had to deal with some sort of injury. Like he would catch fire for a few weeks, and then something would pop up. Catch fire, something would pop up. So it's really nice to just see him be out there, stay healthy, and yeah, ball. Because that's exactly what he did. He was so good in this game. Despite being the reason for Bryce's sole interception, that sucked. There was like some miscommunication there between him and Bryce. Bryce wanted him to keep running. Coker stopped. Yeah, what are you going to do? And Bryce was getting just crushed in the pocket at times. Like that Rams rush was getting there, and he was still finding a way to deal. So I'm happy they picked up his 5th-year option. I want to see what... You definitely give Bryce the starting job next year, and I really want to see what he can do, what he can build off for next season. And on the defense side of the ball for Carolina, this is a different game if J.C. Horn doesn't go down in the 4th quarter. I think they would have won the game, in my opinion, because I think Carolina was forcing Stafford into bad throws. He clearly didn't look great. And if J.C. Horn doesn't go down, that part just really sucks. Part of the reason also why they really made it look easy after Stafford struggled for so long was because they were playing prevent defense. Like, prevent really played off cover 4, whatever, just playing not to lose. Playing to not give up the big play. And giving up everything in between was just, it was never going to be the call. Which sucks because I really do like Ihiro Evero. But after that, I mean, that just sucks. It sucks so much. And they had slowed down the Rams ever since Stafford bonked his finger on the helmet, or the first quarter, whatever you want to say. He was not playing particularly well at all. He gave you multiple chances to intercept the ball. It's bad that the Panthers only ended up with one. Speaking of which, of that one, Mike Jackson's great. The fact that they extended him, I want to say an offseason ago, is so good. They'll bring him back again next year for so cheap. Him and J.C. Horn are just a hell of a duo together. On the preview show, we talked about how probably the biggest matchup of this game was going to be Derek Brown and Ashawn Robinson versus the Rams' interior offensive line in the run game. And the Panthers actually won that matchup. They held him to 4 yards a carry, which is more than you can ask against the Rams team, who runs the ball really, really well. Credit to Derek Brown and Ashawn and that defense for finding a way to win that. I also think a good bit of credit goes to Tershawn Wharton, who came back for this game. I wasn't too sure if he was going to come back. That's why I didn't talk about it on the preview. But he's also a hell of a player, and he has fingerprints everywhere in this game. He was playing such an awesome game. But yeah, that two things will haunt Carolina. The last drive where they played off and J.C. Horn wasn't in, and them dropping that second interception. It was, I think, Nick Scott who dropped it, who had a just terrible day. And he should have had a second pick on Stafford because Stafford was giving away the ball, but they dropped it. For the Rams, good God, you avoided disaster. This would have been one of the worst losses any team has suffered in the wild card in the last 10 years if they found a way to lose this game. And the only thing is, it wasn't necessarily shocking it was close. I had it being a close game in the preview. And that's because there's Rams defense who, again, we hammered about in the preview, has been one of the worst defenses in the last month and a half. And they have really, really bad secondary play that continued. So Ahkello Witherspoon comes out in this game, and I think Ahkello you can pick on in the run game. When the Niners play the Rams, I love seeing Ahkello Witherspoon out there because you can run right through him. But he is a solid cover corner. And when he came out, and it was up to Emmanuel Forbes as the main corner one, and God knows who else, this secondary is so easy to pick on. They brought back Quinn Lake, which is supposed to be a huge upgrade for them. He looked awful. He was getting picked on all game. Quinn Lake, I saw they extended him too. The Rams continue to make some truly baffling decisions on their secondary players, and it is really a thing that holds them back from really being in Super Bowl contention every year. But that being said, that front four, of course, we talk about all the time, is amazing, and they got home again. And they're going to be playing now a Bears team without their starting left tackle on Sunday, so we'll see how much damage and how much that front four can carry them through. On the offense side of the ball, Puka in this game kind of struggled once they started putting corners on him, which, I know this is McVay is just such an amazing coach, so he'll find ways to get Puka on a safety, he'll find ways to get him on a backer, whether that's literally motioning Puka and then having him cut through the tackle and the guard, or just moving him around to make sure he's not on the number one corner. But when the Panthers started throwing corners at him, he was kind of getting strapped. And it really wasn't until the last drive when they went back to that prevent defense, cover 4 bullshit, where bad cover 4, I should say, because cover 4 isn't necessarily bullshit. But when they went back to that, that's when they started to click again. So Stafford as well in this game did not play well, whether you want to attribute it to the finger. I would more say that it's the Rams couldn't really run the ball, and they started getting not easy pitches and catches for Puka Nacua. Whichever one you want to attribute it to. Stafford, as he tends to do, gave multiple chances to intercept the ball. Atlanta went 1 for 2. They had to go 2 for 2 to win the game. They only got 1. So this is the same Rams team I've seen for a while. I'd argue this is the same Rams team I've seen for 2 years. It is the same. This is a very classic Sean McVay Rams team outside of 21. So If Stafford stays in this gift-giving mode, that Bears defense will take advantage of it because they are the best takeaway unit in all football. So if Stafford has a few bad interceptions, it could get ugly in Chicago. That's what I will say before we head into the preview show. I don't want to say too much before we head into Thursday. So moving on, last game. It's been a long show. We're up to over an hour here. I appreciate everybody who's stuck with me through it here. Chargers Patriots. I'm going to keep this one brief. There's literally nothing for me to really say. It is exactly as I called this game to go, except the Chargers did even worse than I thought they would. I got so much flack from Chargers fans for saying that they were dead in the water. And what were they other than just dead in the water? No way around it. They had no chance in this game. The Patriots defense with Milton Williams is really good. And I was like getting comments like, oh, you think Milton Williams is going to scare us? Hell yeah, he should. That defense, that man was everywhere. Everywhere. And he closed out the game with a sack. Oh my God, Milton Williams is so good. And this whole Patriots defense is really good when he's out there. I'm a little concerned about Gonzo, although the Texans don't have Nico Collins probably, so that might just end up canceling each other out. But we saw the Patriots defense without Gonzo through the first few weeks of the year, and that did not look good at all. But yeah, there's not much for me to say on the New England side of things. Like, Drake May struggled in this one for a good while, which is to be expected. It's his first playoff game. But it took a few quarters, and he was playing a really, really good defense. That Chargers defense stayed amazing. Tuli Tuipulotu had just a hell of an impact on the game. He was everywhere. My God, he's so good. He's so, so good. And Minter is really good. I think he has 8 head coaching interviews already, and there are 8 job openings outside of Pittsburgh. So he's gone, which sucks for Chargers fans because he is unbelievable at his job. I saw some stuff about Justin Herbert today, and yesterday there's been a lot of talk about him and the fact that if you look back now, he blew a 27-point lead in his first wildcard game. He had 4 interceptions against Houston last year, and now he put up 3 points. So I understand there is real questions that need to be had. Of all 3 of them, I want to say this is the least of his. That is to say, I don't think they could have won this game with anybody at quarterback. It was never going to work with this offensive line. It never was going to work. And not to add on that, they were getting just horrible, horrible OC calls out of Greg Roman. It's so good he got fired. He has been hamstringing this offense. I am excited to see the Chargers team back with their tackles and Greg Roman out. That'll be such a huge hire in the offseason, whoever they get. I know every fan base who's looking for an OC is clamoring for Mike McDaniel because, Mike McDaniel's great. But I think he'll get a head coach. He'll get a head coaching job. If I were to guess, they'll go somewhere off the Rams tree. Someone always does the McVay tree. Get somebody who shook hands with Sean McVay, and that'll kind of be it. But yeah, as I don't think that they could have won this game with anybody at quarterback. Retouching at that point, I understand he didn't play great, especially in the first half when the pressure wasn't insanely absurd. Like, it was still bad, but it wasn't ungodly. And for them to only get a 3, for them to fail on that 4th down when they got the ball inside their own 5-yard line on an interception or inside the Patriots 5-yard line is brutal. And that was like the real indicator to me that that was in the first quarter and they didn't get it. And then I knew this game was done. That offensive line, had they won the playoff game or this game, would have been the worst offensive line to win a playoff game since they started tracking the metric in 2002 as far as offensive and defensive as far as pass game and run game, as far as pass blocking and run blocking has been going, and they've been tracking it. I'm not too sure what the final details of that stat are, but yeah, they would have been by far the worst. So no shocker to see them just take belt. I mean that sincerely. Like, I had a fun time responding to some Chargers fans in my comments afterwards. I'll keep it like that. I know I'm trying to foster a community of just positivity, good vibes, but that had to be done. That had to be done. I was laughing my ass off during that game. Yeah, but that is all for the show. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all had a great time listening. We're going to be here Thursday to preview all the divisional games. I have a flight to catch that day. I'm going to be flying back home to watch the division round with my family. So you will get not this background. We will get the home background for that one, which I think you guys like more. So with all that being said, again, thank you all so much for listening. I know we've been going for over an hour, which is crazy. There was just so much to say. And I hope you all have just a phenomenal day.